Well, hi, I'm making wooden window frames today, and I'm making them the old traditional way, so they're going to be nicely jointed window frames. And I actually want these for a new workshop extension that will take place at some point in the future. And it's also for my stained glass. Got some nice moulding, so this is actually sash style wood, and it's been moulded, so it's got the rebate at the back for the window glass, and it's got a nice moulding on the front. But I'm doing them sort of jointed, so they've got mortise and tenons going through them. So I'll take you through how I make them. I'm actually using these for my stained glass. Well, I'm just going to cut some of this moulding to length so that I can make up the basic frame sizes. And I've got my little saw bench for this. Obviously could do it all by hand, but I quite like this little bench actually. It's a little bit smaller than ideal, but I've put a dust extractor on it, and it's got a nice little dust extraction on its hood as well. So it works quite well all in all. After I've done a sort of sawing session, I quite like to have the air filtration on, and it just gets the worst of the sort of sawdust. It's a small shed, my one, so I have this jet system here that hangs off the ceiling. It's got a little remote unit where you can basically switch it on and off. Might work. Yeah, there we are. It's not too noisy. And you can set it for like an hour or 2 hours or whatever you want to do, or you can set its speed, so it's on the, I think it's on the lower setting at the moment. So that's the next setting up, and now for the next one. There we are. That's on its fastest, which is quite rapid. I've now cut my pile of timber, so my next job will be to cut the mortises in the stiles, and I'm just using a 1/2 inch mortise bit here. I could cut these by hand, but I actually suffer with a bit of repetitive injury on my wrist if I keep going at this sort of thing, so I have got this little machine here. I have to say it's alright, but it's not the most solid bit of kit. It does the job, but it's not a pleasure to use, frankly. And I think if I was getting one of these again, I'd probably buy something a bit more beefy. This is very much DIY grade. I don't use it much, so it's adequate, but you know how it is, some machines you use them and you really enjoy using them because they're nice quality, they're nicely made. This one is okay. For the money it's good value, but I don't particularly like using it, but it's not that good. I've put a diamond tip on the mortise bit. I think possibly I ought to buy a slightly better quality chisel bit there, but it did improve a lot when I put a little diamond sharpening on it. Anyway, we'll get on with some mortising next. What I tend to do with this one is I drill the sort of centre hole, and then I do the shoulders each side of the mortise. It's like that. I always find the first hole you do is a bit messy and it's harder going, but if you then just trim your sides and you've got about 1/4 inch each side, you get a far cleaner cut each side. So that's what I'll do. So I'm just cutting one more of the mortises. Let's just move that along a bit. There we are. In we go. Always just checking I've got chip ejection there. Sometimes these bits jam a bit, and then they get very difficult to extract. I should really have this bolted down, but I haven't really got the space. The mortises are now cut, so my next job is to cut the tenons on the cross pieces. Now, I've been using one of these pull saws recently, and I must say I'm quite impressed by it. A friend put me onto them actually, well, onto Japanese saws, so saws that you pull rather than push. And I bought this one, and I've used it quite a bit actually. It doesn't look like it, but I've been really pleased with it. It cuts a very fine line, it cuts very quickly, and for joint work it's excellent. A little bit odd to get used to at first, but I would thoroughly recommend it. Anyway, I'll get cutting and you can see what I mean. Well, first of all I need to mark out my tenons, and one of the gauges I really like for marking out is this wheel gauge by Veritas. And you just lay it on and scribe it over. You may not be able to see that scribe line on camera, but it's a really nice tool. Really easy to use and set up. Does help if you get the line straight, but I'm trying to hold it for the camera. So there you are. Has a little fine adjustment setting and a locking nut. But for marking out, it's very good. Well, I'm just going to cut the tenons. So I got all these marked out. It's weird with these pull saws, because I find if you stand quite well back as you saw, one can actually get quite a good eye line. It just feels really odd. But I must say I do quite like it. It's a lovely fine line. I mean, you hardly see the line, it's so fine. Which is very good. This is a sort of like the medium one. But I mean, look at that line, it's amazing really. Perfectly done. Just a ticket. They're quite easy to start as well, which is good. And hey presto, within, you know, a few minutes one's got quite a respectable little tenon coming out. Now I've got to trim the tenon each end now, but that's my tenon. So yeah, lovely fine finish on them as well. I've cut the rough tenons out now, so I've just got to trim them to fit the joints. Now to get these tenons to fit, I need to basically trim them to width. And I'm going to need to get the mouldings to match up. So what I'll be doing actually is taking a lot of this down. So I'll trim these first and then work on that. That's the teeth cut. So the shoulder is actually square all round. That's the first bit. Just cut myself on the saw blade. It is sharp, make no mistake. Right, so that's a reduced down size of tenon. So that will go into there in a minute. Just got to trim that down a bit more. This I flatten off, but what I have to be careful of and do a little curved notch is out in this moulding, otherwise you end up with a very nasty point where the mouldings meet. So I'll mark it up and then get cutting. So lining those up, mark where the thickness of this piece overlays. So I want to cut that top rail down, but this piece here I will want to curve. So what I do, pop that in there, cut this over, right, in the vise this way, and then take it down. So just taking this down. Now curve I'm just going to put in, needs to come down a little bit I think. There we are. So there we are, whop that in. And then just chisel this off. I do this by hand and get a slightly better finish. So like that, coming down. Oops. Bring that down. It doesn't run out. And that lifts out. There. And just finish getting this down as neatly as I can. I'm just going to hit that down with a mallet actually. There we are. That lifts out the way. So we've got a nice flat area now for the joint to rest on. And we've got a nice little curvy bit for the overload moulding to sort of match in nicely. So if that's gone all right, we will have quite a nice fitting little joint. Yeah, that's the idea. So you get a nice tight joint in the corner and it doesn't look hideously, it sort of blends in like a picture frame is the idea. Get the joint a bit tighter in a second. And at the back, one's got the channel for the glass to sit in. And of course on the other side is the mortise and tenon joint poking through. And it's a haunched one, so it's basically nothing there. And then the mortise and tenon there. But that's the idea of the jointing. It just gets it a bit neater really. Well, here's the finished frame and I've just taken the glass protective cover off, so that's roughly what it will look like. I have made these for my stained glass panels, so just to give you an idea, and I have got to trim very slightly, it's just about 1 millimetre, but that is the glass, you know, protecting the stained glass panel. And I'm quite pleased with it actually. So anyway, hope you've enjoyed watching that one, and it's been quite interesting doing the jointing and having the little overload mouldings matching in. And again, thanks for watching.